Tell me when we are.
Yeah, you can go ahead.
I know it's Michaela Hayes scratched out with us, and then your name read.
Okay, board members, I need you back at the table and quickly get your things. All right, welcome everyone to the Victoria and Esquimalt Police Board meeting on May 21st. I will look to co-chair Alto to provide the territorial acknowledgement.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our regular meeting that takes place on the traditional and contemporary territories of the Lekwungen people. Today, our friends and family in the Songhees Nation and the Saupsuq Nations. We always begin our meeting together by taking a moment to reflect on the opportunities and generosity of the nations and allowing us to do our work here in their territories. And to urge my colleagues and all of those who are listening to us to take a moment each day and to reflect on whatever gratitude makes sense to them in their personal lives, to bring home those realities and to ensure that we appreciate in whatever way makes sense the every chance we have to say thank you, to navigate and nurture relationships with our Indigenous colleagues, and to make the decisions that we make at all times in the best interest of folks who have come before, folks who are here, and those who will come after. With that, we acknowledge with thanks these opportunities and often say, as we try to do, to offer our thanks, gratitude, and respect to those of us who are with us today, those of us who are listening, and all of our friends, families, and relationships.
Thank you. Board members, are there any declarations of conflict of interest? All right, seeing none. We have the agenda in front of us. I will look to a member of the board to put the motion forward. Him and secondary, please. Michaela. Paul.
First off, could I add under new business a subject line, City of Victoria Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan?
Okay, is there a seconder to the amendment? Elizabeth, all right. Are you adding more? Okay.
I'm just clarifying, under the board co-chair's report, there will be some discussion regarding a recent meeting regarding School District 61.
The statement said.
Perfect.
All right, and is there any, so we have an amendment to the original motion. I'll call the motion on the amendment. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. So we go back to the main motion as amended. With that addition, all those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. Motion's carried. All right, we have the public minutes of April 16th, and I need a motion to adopt. Dale and seconder Paul. Any errors, omissions, or changes? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. Motion's carried. I will look to my co-chair if there's anything that you'd like to add. All right. I will state that the board met with SD 61 board on May 1st. And it was a meeting that lasted a bit over an hour long. And we came out of it with discussion from both sides. We were able to have Mia Golden there and also our police representative on the MIST team. We had inspectors and our deputies and the chief there. Most of the board was there. And at the end of the meeting, although we had not resolved anything, we came out of it feeling that we had a productive meeting and that we would continue to work together And so we are in the process of setting up a subcommittee, a member of the board, as well as 2 members of our department to meet again with SD 61 to explore continuing dialogue toward and around the school liaison officer service. So, Paul Farrell, please.
I'd like to thank you, Chair. I'd just like to kind of talk a little bit more about the meeting that we attended. I was there in person, and I want to, it was important that we had a meeting to discuss the school police liaison officer program. Finally, with School District 61, it took some time, some hurdles to get there, but we met. In my mind, we have, obviously this issue is very public. I understand that. And it's very public because what's at stake here is what we're talking about is the safety of students. And I think no one is going to say that that's not important. That's obviously should be top of mind for us as a board, for us as a police department, and I'm assuming is top of mind for School District 61. The board, we have had conversations about this topic, and the board is taking a position to support the school police liaison programs. This board has received copies of letters now just recently within the last week from the city of Victoria and the township of Victoria. Pardon me, the township of Esquimalt, pardon me. I just grew the township by a few thousand people. But we received 2 letters from the 2 municipalities that we provide a service for policing. And I've seen one of those letters, the letter from the township, and it's quite clear that there's concerns from the township of, I can't speak on behalf of the township, but the letter was very clear in the sense that it was requesting School District 61 to effectively reinstate the school police liaison program. And it's my understanding that the other municipalities that are in the jurisdiction of School District 61 have written letters as well. Since I've been on this board, I've seen 2 letters from 2 parent groups laying out clear concerns about this matter. Those letters were copied in a police one of our submissions. It was on the chief's report. I recall. I'll call correctly. So I am very concerned about this, and I look at what our role here is as a police board. And I take that very seriously. But in that presentation that we heard at a few weeks ago, we had a chilling presentation from the Mobile Youth Service team that works in partnership with this police service to provide outreach for student safety. And some of the examples and concerns that were raised that's happening in schools in Victoria resonated with me, and quite frankly, I was very troubled by that. And I think that while I respect each board's autonomy and respect to its authority, given that we've taken a position on school police liaison officers, the township and the city who we provide services for have taken an issue on it, and knowing and hearing what's happening in those schools, I have a couple of motions that I would like to put forward.
I've allowed you to motivate prior to your motion, so go ahead and put your motion on.
Well, the first one relates to kind of the original reasons for about the whole school police liaison program. And what I will do is I'll move that the Victoria and Esquimalt Police Board invite the British Columbia Human Rights Commissioner to a future public board meeting or presentation from Vic PD and the Mobile Youth Service Team regarding the negative effects of student safety and the service gaps created with the cancellation of the school police liaison officer program in School District 61.
There's a seconder for the motion? Thank you. Do you wish to add any?
Well, I think
more
you
information?
know, you with my opening comments, and I apologize, Chair, if I abused your opening there. I was thinking that we were gonna have a more a comprehensive conversation on it, so that was my mistake. The point that I'm gonna make is that the commissioner wrote the BC School Trustees Association a letter, which is the governing organization for all school trustees, a letter on November the 24th, 2022. And basically laying out about her reasonings for it. And it's a comprehensive letter, and I would encourage everybody to read it. But there's statements in there that I believe are not correct, like suggesting that students generally feel safe in schools, regardless or not there's a school liaison program is embedded in there. You know, I'm not sure this is correct. This letter has been used over and over for defense of not having school police liaison programs, and I think this board, given this issue, given our responsibility, I think it'd be fair to invite the commissioner to have an open dialogue to hear firsthand what's happening in Victoria schools, not only from the Victoria Police Department, but from the mobile youth team that quite frankly is our heroes in my mind.
Seconder wish to speak?
No, I agree with maybe conditions of whatever.
Is there a discussion? All right. Tim, did you want to speak?
I think, yes, through you, Chair, thank you. Oh, I think there's, could be also questions the need for action and immediate action. I wonder how this impacts our relations with the school district and how we can continue building those relationships. I think that should also remain a priority. And if we somehow derail relationships, then I wonder what we can, how we can find a way forward.
I don't think that inviting the Human Rights Commissioner to speak to us would derail it. I think we're gathering more information and we're sharing information from our on the ground officers and personnel so that they have a better understanding of what's going on. So I don't see that as it shouldn't provoke the school district one way or the other. We're just expanding our dialogue. Why I supported the motion.
I sit somewhere in the middle. It shouldn't provoke the school district, but it will. I think anything will provoke the school district. I'm still going to vote in favor of it just as an advance announcement, but I do think it will be provocative for sure because they're so delicate. It is very delicate. So we should be aware of that in any decision making, I think.
Thank you. Can we have the motion read back?
Sure, and I'd be happy to provide it in writing to our executive assistant to save that. But the motion is as follows. I move that the Victoria and Esquimalt Police Board invite the British Columbia Human Rights Commissioner to a future board meeting for a presentation from Vic PD and the Mobile Youth Service Team regarding the negative effects of student safety and the service gaps created with the cancellation of the school police liaison officer program in School District 61.
Thank you. Any further discussion? I'm quite challenged having read out our statement about working together and continuing to work forward. Of what kind of reaction we will get. I don't disagree that this is information gathering and I would appreciate having Commissioner come forward. But I'm also conscious of relationships and what it took to get ourselves and the school district in the room together. And I think this is information gathering, and I hope it doesn't affect our ability to continue to have dialogue with the school district. I will call the question. All those in favor? And any opposed? None opposed. Motion's carried.
I have a second motion, chairperson. I will move that the Victoria and Esquimalt Police Board write a letter to the Minister of Education and Childcare requesting a review of student safety in School District 61 in light of School District 61's board's reluctance to reinstate the school police liaison officer program, and given the ministry's own safe and caring school communities policy.
There is a seconder to the motion. Michaela? You wish to speak further?
Well, you know, look, I appreciate the words that I have just I've just read out, and I appreciate the sensitivity of this issue. This is a complex, serious issue, and I think that we shouldn't be afraid of making sure that we are gathering facts and we put all hands on deck to look at the situation. All school boards in British Columbia are governed by the BC School Act. I found on the ministry's website their own policy that is a safe and caring school communities policy that takes into account the School Act, Code of Conduct, school regulations, and so on. But the policy statement says the policy guides boards of education and their school efforts to create safe and inclusive learning environments and develop prevention and intervention strategies for addressing the most worrisome behaviors, including threats or risk of violence. That's what I heard is happening in schools in School District 61. I'm not fabricating that. People that are on the ground said that. I heard that at a meeting. I think that's a problem. And I respect boards of autonomy and authority. However, we have a board onus to ensure that we're providing the best police servicing in this city and the township. And that encompasses parts of School District 61. And I think it's very fair I'm not suggesting, I'm asking the minister to simply look at it and listen to the words that I've put forward. It is to review the situation. We have received as a board a letter from the township that we provide servicing in, who wrote a letter to the school board saying, we want the program back. We've received a letter from the city of Victoria, who we provide policing for, who have written a letter to School District 61 that says, we want the program back. Other municipalities have written the same letter. I think simply writing a letter on behalf of the board, whose police department we represent, asking for a high-level review of the situation, I think is reasonable. I'm surprised that the review hasn't happened. And that's where we're at. This is again, I'll end with, it's a complex situation. I am pleased that we're continuing to meet. I would be, and I know that we will continue to meet. It would be a mistake not to continue dialogue with the school district. That's very, very important. But my goodness, I think we have an obligation here to push as hard as we can to try to ensure that everybody who goes to schools is under a safe environment. So that's why I've moved the motion, Chairperson.
Michaela,
No, I'm okay right now, I see.
Holly,
So I just want to point out that I think it is very important to have an external party review what is going on. I've heard that there are alternatives to the police liaison program, and I want to know what those are, and I want to hear it from somebody external to the school district, and I want to know how we're moving along in getting those things in place and how effective they are and things like that. So a review, I think, is simply gathering information that allows us to make better decisions in the future. I don't think that it needs to be taken as an affront from the school district themselves, because that to me is not the purpose of this. This is more of a way of gathering information, seeing what's been implemented so far and how well that's working, to allow us to really evaluate our own stance and make sure that we continue to agree with our own statements. So yeah, that's just my 2 bits.
thank you. Michaela,
I wonder if there is another step we could include where we invite the school district to write this letter jointly with us, requesting that the ministry conduct that review. And if they decline to, then we can look at doing it ourselves. I just wonder if there is a way to bring it as a collaborative approach to get an external investigation on this from a party that has the best interest of the students ostensibly at heart.
are you making an amendment to the motion?
No, not quite yet. I'm just bringing it up for discussion at this point, but we can reserve the right to do it either way, but we may be able to do it collaboratively.
For discussion, you would need to put the amendment on the floor.
Okay, I was gonna put that in.
Okay, is there a seconder to that amendment? Hey, Dale, do you wish to motivate further?
No, I wish to hear what people think about that. I'm not fighting for that. And I'm not gonna give an advance declaration of how I'm gonna vote on this one either. But if we leave it as is, but I would like to discuss that approach.
Tim?
I think it's a more positive perspective. My concern is if we go ahead with that, if that motion passes, the second motion, it's kind of like slapping the school board in the face. And I mean, it's taken us a very long time, a lot of work to be able to sit down and have that initial meeting. And, you know, I think it's premature. And this could be a way to save face, for the school board to save face.
Okay, Elizabeth?
I think that, again, this is a matter of strategy, not about where our values are. I don't disagree with anything that Paul has said about safety of our students being one of the most important things, but keep kids safe. We do have an onus to take action on this, I believe, and to express our opinion on it. But writing to the Ministry of Education, which is in fact their boss, and asking them to do something is going to be considered provocative, maybe punitive. And I'm not saying that shouldn't happen, but before we send that letter, I think we should have the second meeting. They agreed to a meeting. I know we're quibbling about whether the agenda that they've proposed is the right agenda, but I think if we get in the room with them, we have the opportunity to talk about what we want to talk about. And if it turns out that this meeting is not going to accomplish what we want, then we could always ask for an external review, whether it's Ministry of Education or anyone else. I think Michaela's idea of talking to the school district about that is not a bad one, but I would introduce that in a second meeting, because that's the kind of thing you want to be able to make sure. You don't want to do it in writing. The things in writing often get misinterpreted. We need the nuances about how we're all trying to work together on this and do what's best for kids. So I've kind of lost the procedure thing. I think we have to vote on the amendment first. But what I would support is that we we consider sending this letter, but we meet first. And we make sure that we don't have the meeting date stretching out for months. It's gotta be fairly soon. If it can't be arranged soon, then we can go back to this letter and becomes our plan B.
We do need to vote on the amendment first. Any further discussion?
Well, just, I understand the spirit of the amendment. You know, I used to represent school board workers in Vancouver and school's out in a few weeks. My concern is my understanding that the meeting that we have that's been so-called agreed upon, there's no date set. My concern is that given that this school break is going to be happening very soon, that I don't foresee a letter, if the amendment gets forward, I don't see a letter getting penned potentially until probably late fall after the school gets back. So given the importance of this issue and given the timeliness of this issue, I'm gonna be voting against the amendment.
Any further discussion? All right, on the amendment, all those in favor? Okay, Dale, and Tim, and those against? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, the amendment fails. We go back to the main motions. Any further discussion on that? Tim?
I would just like to, again, thank Paul for these thoughtful and motivating motions. And I think my leading is towards what you said, Elizabeth, that this might be a good space to hold as a reserve, to meet first, see what happens, and then launch.
Are you wanting to put forward an amendment to send this letter after the second meeting?
I will put forward an amendment to send this letter after the second meeting on the premise that meeting happens sooner rather than later.
We define that.
Sooner, yeah, I mean. Our next,
Okay, is
our
there
next
a
board meeting,
Seconder to that amendment,
I'll second the amendment, that's the intent.
okay? You'll remember at the meeting that the initial delay for the next meeting was that we were going to have this appointment by the board, for the board meeting. So that may be part of the delay. That certainly was our delay. But going forward, I have no understanding of any other delay. Tim, do you wish to speak to your motion any further? Or is there any-
I think, no, this spoken enough.
Elizabeth? All right, I'll call this.
Can I just get clarification on the motion, the amendment? We've got the main original motion. And then the secondary amendment includes which two aspects?
The amendment is to not send the letter until after a second meeting with ST 61.
As long
as the meeting occurs before when? I like a date.
I would say maybe our next board meeting. We can set up.
As long as the meeting occurs before the June board meeting. Okay, and that's the move, second, we're comfortable with the deadline. Okay. Any further discussion on the amendment? Holly?
Sorry, I was just gonna say, you need to pick a date. I can't contemplate this with no date, and now we have one. Thank you.
Thanks.
Could you just repeat the amendment, just so I'm absolutely clear what it says? Please, thank you.
So I've got your original motion.
Correct.
that I read.
Yeah.
Amended to include that a letter be sent after the second meeting with the school district 61 and board representatives. And prior to the next board meeting, as long as the meeting is prior to the next board meeting.
Okay, Tim?
So I think meeting should have been penciled or a date set prior to. I don't know whether we can meet before the
Okay,
next board
gotcha.
meeting, but if we have a date by then.
All right, seconder, okay with that too? I just want to get clarity on the words first. Okay, Paul, you had the
So
floor.
just put clarification through the chair to the mover of the amendment. If I understand this correctly, so if the meeting, the second meeting with Vic PD and ST happens, is scheduled before our next board meeting, but could potentially be on December the 1st, that would be the intent of your motion?
That's how it reads. Do you wish to make any further change?
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, my friend.
Oh, thank you. So then we get a date, so.
I haven't.
Okay, Michaela?
Are we, is this motion just saying that we're gonna send the letter after the second board meeting or the second meeting with SD 61, or that we're gonna discuss it? Because I couldn't vote in favor of that. I don't know what's gonna happen at that meeting. I can vote on something now, because I know what's happening now. I can't vote on sending a letter after a meeting that hasn't happened without knowing the substance of that.
So, yeah,
What about a further amendment that, after the meeting, if it's viewed as necessary after discussion, because maybe we'll make some progress in that second meeting. And we don't need to take that type of stance.
okay, is there a seconder to that amendment on the amendment?
Not quite sure what that one does, but I think the issue that we're now debating is the urgency of having the meeting. So maybe that's what our motion should be, that we agree to try to schedule the meeting before the end of June. Or some other date, the next board meeting, and if we can't, then we trigger the letter.
And I think I'll be comfortable with some wording to be a reasonable timeline within our board meeting.
I think what we're hearing is that the concern would be that the board would not come back to us, school district board would not come back to us after the end of the school year.
Yes.
So in terms of adding some clarity, if we come before the end of this school year, would that help in determining the opportunity to help solidify it? And maybe, as you're all saying, maybe it's pretty what's the word, clunky in terms of saying we're going to send it after we have this meeting. We don't know, because we don't even know if we have that meeting with this motion. So let's hear one more time Tim's amendment. And unless I see somebody who comes up with any little changes.
Okay, so was one of the new amendments to have the meeting set prior to the end of the school year, was that?
Well, that was my suggestion, but it's Tim's motion, so what do you?
I think prior to the end of the school year would be makes sense.
Is everybody comfortable with just making that the timeline, or are you? Rather than me doing procedural. Okay, so, and the seconder is okay with that. Okay, so on the amendment, let's review the motion with the amendment, please.
Oh, can I get
The full, or can you?
I'm gonna send it to you right now, but yeah. There you go, it's part of, it's this number 2.
The motion is to move that the Victoria Esquimalt Police Board write a letter to the Minister of Education and Childcare requesting a review of student safety in School District 61 in light of this School District 61 board's reluctance
Yeah.
to reinstate the school police liaison officer program and the ministry's safe and caring school communities policy, amended to include sending a letter if deemed necessary after the second meeting with School District 61 that is to take place prior to the end of the school year.
The meeting.
Yeah, not the date set, but the meeting.
Okay. Tim's good. Seconder is good on the amendment. Michaela.
Well, I'm gonna really wind everyone up and I have a whole new amendment, so I don't know procedurally how I do
I
that.
only do two.
Well, can I say something for discussion then?
You can say it out loud.
Okay, I'm gonna out loud say that after listening to all of this, I would like to consider. I think what I have been trying to balance is how to make this point and pass this motion with doing the least damage to the relationship with SD 61. So even though this isn't an amendment, I wonder if we could consider proceeding with Paul's motion, but removing the piece about in light of SD 61's refusal to reinstate the school liaison program, and just instead write a letter asking the Minister of Education and Childcare requesting a review of student safety in School District 61. And in light of the ministry's safe and caring school communities policy. That's less inflammatory because it's not throwing SD 61's policy into the
I have the amendment on the floor. I'm gonna look to my other chair there that also has to navigate these things. I need to call the question on the amendment.
I would suggest that we defeat all of these amendments and motions and just do a clean start. Because the issue that we want is to meet expeditiously before the end of the school year. And if we don't have a satisfaction that we're gonna make any progress at that meeting, then we send a letter to the Ministry of Education. So rather than amending and amending and amending, if we just vote against them all, then we're procedurally in a good spot.
All right, I will call the question on the amendment. Holly, before I go there?
I also think that Sean's hand is up, but I was just going to kind of reiterate what Elizabeth said there, that motions need to be very solid. And so including something in a motion that's like, if we deem it necessary, then we don't need the motion in the first place. Like that means that we would just deal with it. We're going to have to deal with it later anyway. That's not making an actual decision. So I just want to be very careful around how motions are worded and what we pass or don't pass, and what responsibility that puts on us. That is not a solid enough motion in my mind.
Okay. Sean, is your hand up? Because all we see is half of each of you. Well, we see Holly in Technicolor. But Sean, we only see half of you.
Yeah, I don't know what's happening. My hand's been up for the last 10 minutes. So I'm a little frustrated as to why I'm not getting an opportunity to speak.
It's because we couldn't see you. So please speak out if you've been sitting for a period of time.
I'm going to just relinquish what I was going to say because obviously we have amendment on top of amendments. This is very confusing. I simply want to vote with the original motion, what Paul presented, and push that forward. No delay. Our bodies are at risk. I want this letter review sent. Thank you.
Okay. So I'm calling the question on the amendment. All those in favor? None in favor. Tim's in favor. And those opposed? Anyone else? And go back to the main motion, which is not amended. Are you ready for the question? All those in favor? And those opposed? Sorry, we have in favor, we had Paul, Michaela, and Sean, and Holly. Okay, and those opposed? Tim and Dale and Elizabeth. And so it's 4-3, so the motion passes. Okay. All right, gang, we now move on and we are down to committee updates. And first up is governance.
Thank you, Chair. Just going to, the cognizant of time here, that last matter took some time. Just the governance committee has continued working on a review of the policies, procedures for, procedures and practices for service and/or policy complaints. We're doing a review this is an important part under the Police Act. And certainly that work is has started. And it's going to take some time, but we're going to measure twice, cut once on this, and do a full comprehensive review of those issues.
You have a motion?
That's regarding the second one. The second issue is purchasing of copies of the Police Act, and just in the last few minutes, the Police Act's been quoted several times. And we had some discussion that simply flipping back and forth to an online version was clunky. There's my technical words. So the motion is that any board member who wishes to obtain a hard copy of the Police Act may request one when the updates to the act are completed in the fall. And I'd certainly been happy to move that.
Thank you, seconded. Discussion?
And just to the chair, that these are provided through the now King's printer. It used to be the Queen's printer. We have to remember that. And they're bound copies, so they're easy to flip through. And I think it'd be a useful document given our obligation to follow within the Police Act.
All right, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed, motion's carried. And you have another item?
Well, just that there was some discussion regarding review regarding the best practices regarding the use of the co-chair's current email for police board business, and certainly there's going to be just a step back and a review, a 360 review of what makes sense, what's the best practice, and that work is going to be undertaken. And that would be my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Finance.
So Donna Phillips and I are working on the process for the preparation of the 2025 budget. We've looked at the timelines from last year and the various steps we made, and we'll be bringing forward a proposal on the timelines and the process at the next finance committee meeting in June. And also work that was done while I was away in April on a list of the community organizations that we would consult with more thoroughly this year than we were able to do last year. We will finalize that meeting too. With those 2025 budget, here we are already. And we'll start doing work on that, trying to get something out soon. And then over to Donna for the monthly financial report.
Thank you. It was my first report, so I think it came together not too badly, but I think the main message here is page 7 of 17. It's the first statement in the financial report. The bottom line is that we're at the end of April 29th, we're at 33.4% spent of the total budget, which is on track. The target is 35%. Overall, everyone's fine.
Thank you. Are there questions on any of the committee reports? Great. Seeing none, we move down to board member engagement, and several members of the board went to the Governing in the Public Interest Conference. And so we would welcome those of us that couldn't attend, we'd welcome some feedback on that. Gayla?
In terms of feedback, I enjoyed that conference. It is for all capital boards and commissions. So there's hundreds of people who serve on different boards across the province, different boards and commissions. So it's more macro topics that don't affect us as specifically as, for instance, the BCAPB conference. I do think it's really valuable. It's excellent for networking. The timing was great because so many people who'd previously been at the BCAPB conference were there. So it was a good opportunity to circle back on some of the topics. I'm not going to speak on the individual topics. I'll leave that to someone else. But one thing I did want to share is that I received 3 emails after complimenting and appreciating our board culture, that our board sat together and seemed to like each other and enjoy each other. And somebody actually asked how we achieved that. And so I thought I would share that. I do appreciate that, and that how noticeable that was to people, that they took the time to write an email and express that it seemed like our board has really positive culture.
Paul?
just, the conference was a one-day conference, just fill in the gaps or just some of the spots that Michaela suggested. The first plenary was titled "The Partnership and Alignment Between Government and Public Sector Organizations." It was led by Shannon Salter, who is the Deputy Minister to the Premier. The second session was titled "Effective Boards: Strategies for Success." They assembled speakers from various public and private institutions in some sense, and it was a good discussion about what works and what doesn't. Another topic that we participated in was risk oversight in the digital age, which was very timely given cyber threats and cyber attacks. That was a very good session. Another session was supporting public members on regulatory boards. There was a session, this was a jammed day, a very important topic, reconciliation, the role of public sector organizations. And that was led by two deputy ministers from the provincial government. And it was a very important conversation to have, given the importance of that topic. AI and the future of governance. We had a comprehensive discussion about what does that mean in the sense of how we operate as a board, and with AI emerging. Leading with purpose through change was another one. Inclusive leadership, embracing DEAI principles. Knowledge exchange, which was kind of just a great networking opportunity. And finally, there was a session that I participated in. It was navigating climate challenges, pathway to sustainability. And so that was all jammed in on a one-day conference. It really was, it was a full day. Right after the conference, there was a networking opportunity for with some of the deputy ministers and ministers were there, and we had we being the Victoria contingent who stuck together. We actually had a nice conversation with Minister Farnworth, which we thought, and we had just to talk about some issues that are coming down the road. So that's kind of what we did on that day in Vancouver.
Anyone else? Wow, that's a great conference. Kim?
I won't go too far, but I did find a lot of value in the networking, talking to other board members who have similar challenges in the public sector. I attended the DEIA, Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and that was a very interesting discussion. I think there was recognition that there was a lot more diversity in the room from previous years, so that was well received, but more needs to be done still. And I think part of that conversation was how to recruit in where the populations are within diverse communities for boards, and that was a call out and a challenge to other boards to be proactive in that. And then the positive board culture, which I think we should have been leading. This was we should have led that session, but it was very interesting to hear that the amount of work that boards need to do in order to remain positive and to remain in that space. Maybe it's not something we should take for granted, and I think this is a plan to go for beers soon.
Thank you. I will, is everybody good? We'll move on. BC Association of Police Board Directors update.
There's not a significant update today because our quarterly meeting is on Friday, so I will have a better update at the next meeting. We were pleased to find out that our conference was net positive for cash flow, so that was great for BCAPB, and we have just finished our new mission, values, and vision statement. So I think I'll have a better update next month, but there's lots going on. We have a really good executive this year, and I'm looking forward to it.
Fantastic. And just looking at time, Chief, we have your list of where you attended, so we can ask questions on that. But any other updates, we'd appreciate.
Yeah, sure. I would turn it over to Deputy Chief McRae for an ops update. Thanks.
Just a couple of quick things, and I'll keep them quick. First, at our last board meeting, we did speak about some of the concerns we were having downtown, and I mentioned that we would be dedicating foot patrols to help provide greater presence, greater interaction interaction with our community downtown. I'm happy to say that that has been occurring and has been very, very popular with the community. We consistently get positive feedback from community members. Sometimes it's as quick as just a 20-minute walk around, and other times it's been a couple of 3 hours and everything in between, which has been great. You may have noted we did a short media briefing or release on Twitter, just letting people know that we'll be continuing throughout the sunshine months, although it rained today, but throughout the sunshine months of the summer, which we're looking forward to. You likely were aware, and I know Desjardins, I know you're for sure aware of some issues we had with youth gathering around Buccaneers Days and some additional issues this past Friday night. That is a concern for us. However, you know, as we look into each of these matters, we're just trying to balance out, you know, how significant the concern is. In the short term, we will be dedicating some additional patrol resources over the next couple of weekends to a couple of key areas in Esquimalt. Following that, we will be coming into our summer action plan for the months of July and August, and that summer action plan does include proactive foot patrols, bike patrol, and a bunch of other things led by Inspector Michael Brown for our Esquimalt division. So I hope that will cause create some again enhanced safety for the community, but also just some good interactions with the community while we're there. I'll just highlight two other calls that have occurred, and you may notice that I try to pick out calls that are, you know, somewhat unique to share with you. Sometimes we've done a media release on them, and sometimes we haven't. But I think it's always a good reminder for the board to hear of different types of calls that police attend to from your police agency. This one is a call of occurred in just a few days ago on May 16th, where a roommate called that his roommate was having a psychotic episode. He consumed a quantity of drugs. He was naked, smashing the apartment, destroying things, nonsensical, and wouldn't respond at all to any conversation. This was sometime in the early morning hours on the 16th. Really, what we're talking about here is a very serious medical emergency that this person is having. But there is such a violent component to it, we cannot just send our paramedics in to deal with this individual. And it becomes our responsibility to help safely take that individual in custody so that they can then be treated by a paramedic. On our arrival, we attempted to communicate with this person, similar to what the roommate had reported. There was certainly no communicating with them, very violent. And ultimately a CEW was used, which then helped allow us to get him into custody. Even while in custody, continuing to try and fight with us, and ultimately had to be sedated by the paramedics and transported to hospital. Again, recognizing that these types of things are a medical emergency for somebody like that. It's unique. I would like to say this is a completely unique call. Unfortunately, it is not, but it is something that our patrol officers are facing and are dealt with. There's nobody else to ask for help at 1 a.m. You are there. This is what you have, and this is what you have to deal with. No matter how much conversation you want to have with that person, when person's in a complete state of psychosis like this, there's not a lot more we can do. The second is a call from Mother's Day this past week and a bit ago. In the early hours on Mother's Day, it was reported that a mother had a stroller, a fairly expensive stroller, stolen from their front porch. The stroller was a baby carriage, I should be more specific, of course, was much needed for this family in order to be able to take their child out and walk around. This resonated with our patrol members who were very concerned about the fact that this this baby carriage was taken. They spent a lot of time that day searching and searching and searching. They did have the benefit of a little bit of video that they were able to gather from a front door camera to know who they were looking for. And ultimately, about 5 hours later, they were able to find this baby carriage, take it, and then return it to the mother on Mother's Day. So one of those ones where besides the fact that it's obviously distressing to have somebody come right onto your porch and steal your things, something of this level of importance for somebody to have built with is obviously a big deal. And I'm very happy that our patrol members had the time to be able to put a little bit of extra effort into really searching and ultimately locating and returning it. I'll leave it at that, Chair.
Thank you. Chief, do you have another update?
Under EDI, so again, on week 15 or 17, there's 4 engagement sessions that I attended, and just want to thank Mayor Alto for attending the Saki Parade and Festival on Cecilia there. Also, we had a number of board members that attended the Indigenous Justice Center open house. Also, Holly and Michaela, I saw you there. Sean, I think you might have been there. I might have missed you, but I was there with my deputy chiefs and a couple other events that I've attended. I just want to highlight actually on May 15th, the First Nations Chiefs of Police Association. So they had their spring conference. They came all the way out to Victoria here. I had Inspector Colin Brown with me and took him there to the event and provided some opening remarks and welcomed the First Nations chiefs to Victoria. And it was just great to host them and glad to see that they chose Victoria to have their national conference. So that's the update.
Thank you. Any further questions for the chief or deputy? All right, seeing none, we'll move down to the community survey results. That's Sheriff. Good to see you on right front.
I'm just going to get ready to share my screen. So overall, the results from the 2024 community survey are very close to the 2022 results. So in any changes that we really saw, they mostly went there. So I'll just go through quickly some of the methodology. There you go. So the surveys were, again, as always, mailed out to a random sample of addresses that were confirmed residences and businesses located in Esquimalt and Victoria. So we've done this for with the same methodology over the last number of years. And again, it's just one part of our overall engagement strategy. And so we've mailed 5,000 surveys, 946 were completed this year, which is a response rate of 20%, a little lower than we've had in the past, but still significant for this type of survey. Our margin of error this year is 3.17% with 95% confidence level, which is quite good. When we compare that to other similar police services margin of error, we have quite a low margin of error, except for Vancouver Police Department, who is 2.34%. But our number of respondents per 1,000 population is really, really high. So it's a really good sample size and a really confident survey is what we're getting at overall. Just some highlights. Again, so today's are the combined results of Victoria and Esquimalt, but just one area where we're just highlighting Victoria. The results are a snapshot in time, and it's important to remember that trends are more important than oh, that's okay. I'm just gonna get it. Yeah. So they are a snapshot in time, and trends are more important than specific meetings. I'm not going to go through all the slides because everything that you don't see here today is not really a significant change. It's just within the margin of error, so we don't need to go through and see those small change numbers. It is good insight into the, generally how people are feeling about things, and there are a couple of areas to pay attention to. One specific trend is that we saw a lot more people saying undecided or don't know. So we'll see a couple areas where they've decreased from agreeing with statements, but they haven't gone over to disagree. They've gone to I don't know or undecided. So that was a significant change that we saw in this survey specifically. We also had a lot of change with the priorities, what they'd like their police department to pay attention to. So just highlighting, do you see it feel safe downtown? So this is combined Victoria and Esquimalt. We saw a drop to 68% feel safe during the day. That's not too much below 2022 numbers, which is where we're seeing a lot of similar comparisons. But I wanted to highlight that within Victoria specifically, we've dropped to 59% of respondents agreeing that they feel safe during the day in the downtown area. And that's
still significantly lower than what we saw in 2022 and the lowest we've seen in the last 5 years. This is correlated with what I don't think is terribly surprising to everybody. What one problem should Vic PD pay closer attention to? And so this year, the number one problem that they'd like us to pay attention to is drug possession and open use, followed by homelessness and traffic offenses and mental health. Just for context, comparing the top 5 categories to 2023 in terms of change. So drug possession, the percentage of people who wanted us to focus on drug possession, open use, doubled since 2023 from 13% to 26%, whereas mental health went down significantly from 14 to 10%. And homelessness had previously been the top focus area. Again, that's our combined results. A couple places where we saw, this is one of the examples where we saw a significant jump in people feeling undecided. So again, the percentage of people who agree that they feel safe and taken care of by Vic PD is not significantly different than 2022, but the number of people who feel undecided is significantly different. Vic PD uses authority and force appropriately. Again, that dropped in terms of agree, but they didn't go to disagree. It's just undecided. And I am proud of Vic PD dropped to 59% with, again, that increase is really just in the undecided category. So this is really an area of opportunity for us rather than necessarily an area of significant concern. Getting into what residents would like us to do to deal with problems. These are the same priorities in the same order. However, each of them has increased. So, for example, have more patrol or be more visible went from 19% to 23%. So everybody wants, what we saw was more people selecting more options because you can choose as many as you want in this one. And despite having many survey respondents say they are undecided in other areas, not a very large percentage say they don't know what we should do about it. So they have a strong idea of what we should do about these different areas that they're concerned about. So clearly they would like us to have more patrol and be more visible. This is reflected in DCC's McRae's comments earlier today and what we hear from everybody, and again to hire more officers as well. And of the 946 respondents, 740 offered comments. We don't have a selection of those comments for you today. A selection will be prepared for when we release these survey results to the public over the next probably 6 weeks, once we pull out the Victoria and Esquimalt specific numbers and prepare the visuals to go with those as well. So.
Okay, questions?
Just on the slide previous, it was one of the graph ones, that one there, what is more info advice? Like what, can you give me an example of what, if I click that box, what am I asking for?
Well, that's a great question. We don't provide definitions of what this means. It's a pretty simple survey just to capture that snapshot. I would say this is probably a lot of our public safety campaigns that we conduct. So fraud information, like we recently had a piece of fraud information. And there's a lot of resources on the website as well, but I'd say it's just putting things out for the public.
Great.
Resources.
Thanks, Cheryl, that helps.
Okay. Any further questions? All right, seeing none, we'll move down to the next item, which is Police Act amendments. Chief, if you can just give some high level.
Sure.
I'll let you go ahead.
Sure, thank you. So this is phase 1 of the Policing and Public Safety Modernization Initiative, and I'll actually turn it over to Deputy Chief Lakeman to provide that high level.
Perfect. I will very high level. We'll talk about those that impact the board most. If I have any questions, I've got my secret weapon in Inspector Brown sitting over there in the corner. There was obviously many amendments. Some had to do with the police complaint commissioner and the OPC. Others had to do with new standard making abilities and the police services director ability. But for board purposes here, and I'm sure the two co-chairs know about this one, and that's the provisions now in the Police Act under Section 23, where it is no longer necessary for the mayor to be the chair of the board. I understand we're a unique board, and we're working through some issues on that one. The next one is that there's a transitional provisions that are in place for municipal councils to make those amendments on replacing the mayor on the police board, replacing their selection and how that's gonna go. And that's that's actually quite a tight timeline. That's July 25th, 2024. For those the new sort of chosen person from each council to be the board representative. And then the board actually elects chair from there. Interestingly enough, the chairs have to be rotated every 2 years. There's a couple of changes in not necessarily in the duration of a board member, but some language reflecting the fact that the mayor is no longer the chair on duration. So it's more reflective of language that a councillor, if they're no longer a councillor for a municipality, there's a requirement now, speaking of service or policy complaints, develop policies on how we handle service and policy complaints. So, policies and procedures that will be adapted to our manual and certainly within our policies and procedures here at the PD under section 171 of the Police Act, service and policy complaints. There's some more stringent rules on the budget process. Most notably, especially for our two municipalities, if there's a dispute on budget lines for the approval process for those councils, that, and if there's going to be a dispute from the board, noted, it's now May 15th deadline to let the services director aware. So as you know, our past section 27s have gone in June and July, and this is the most recent one. So that's a bit of a that's on notice. I suppose a lot makes a decision on that. There's also, interestingly enough, clarifying when a police board may dismiss policy and service complaints under section 171. So it actually runs the gamut on certain categories of service or policy complaints and the rationale behind dismissing them. So that can be baked into policy as we move. It's just that it's expanding the decision making matrix for the police board. And then the last one I'll touch on for the sake of time here is the mandatory board training and board code of conduct. So that's a new section of the Police Act, and look forward to navigating through that one because it's a goal setting exercise. For the sake of time, I think I'll stop there. Inspector Brown, unless you have anything to add to that very high level.
I think you nailed it.
Okay.
Okay, and Marianne will correct me if I'm wrong. We are unique, and because we are, but you are. The OIC trumps everything, and so police services are still working to provide us with further information as to it.
That's right.
Okay. Those changes, many of them will land on governance table, but as we move forward, we'll stay abreast of what those changes are. As there's any information, we'll bring it forward.
And sorry, one more thing, just really quickly, if you are interested, please feel free to reach out through the chief, to either of us. A lot of information on the amendments is available online as well. The Police Act has not been changed, but the amendments page through the legislative process is over.
Okay. We will go down to the next item, which is City of Victoria, and this is the community safety. Is there a motion involved? Because I would ask you to put the motion on the floor.
I would be happy to, Chairperson. I will move that the Victoria and Esquimalt Police Board request a presentation at a future public board meeting from the City of Victoria on the development of the city's community safety and well-being plan, along with the intended goals and objectives.
Is there a seconder to that? 2 seconds. 3 seconds. Okay, do you wish to speak?
Just briefly, I want to thank Mayor Alto. In my property tax notice, I received a very nice letter, message from the mayor. And I was very pleased to read that community safety and well-being continues to be a top priority for council. I was as a member of a police board. I want to thank the mayor for that. But what caught my eye, and it's come up in a kind of more casual terms, as there has been there's been discussions about the cities embarked on this what sounds to be a very comprehensive program. And in the mayor's message, it talks about 11-member community leader panel being put together that's working on the development of this new plan. Given the topic, and given our role as a police board, I just thought it made some sense for us to hear from the city of Victoria firsthand to find out exactly kind of what's going on, where do they want to get to, and how does that impact our role as a police board? And that's the intent of my motion, Mayor.
Second, I'll choose Dale. Yeah, the second one, do you wish to speak to it?
I'm fine.
Okay. Mary Ann, go ahead.
I'll just say that I actually really welcomed this. Paul was kind enough to text me before I put this forward to say it's fine. It is fine, and actually, you would have likely been requested for some time for a presentation at some point. And I think I suggested that it would be very timely if we did that at the June board meeting, if there's time. It'll probably need about 20 minutes, I would say. If that isn't appropriate, July would be fine as well, but sometime in the upcoming couple of months.
All right, anything further to discuss? I will call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. I believe we've lost Sean.
We did, yeah.
Okay. We move down and we're at rise and report. And in the March 19th meeting during a closed in camera session, the board support, the motion came forward that the board support the reintegration of the school police liaison officer program in SD 61 with modifications as a public safety measure in our communities. Last on the agenda is correspondence, and we have the letter from our board to Delta Police. They reached out to us to request that we delay some of our complaint investigation, and given their information, we have agreed and sent them back a letter. Paul, as Chair of Governance, do you wish to speak any further?
The original letter and the response are included in the package. I think there was a request which laid out pretty compelling reasons for the request, and certainly that request was received and acknowledged back to the Delta Police.
Great. Anything further on that item? That's just, we receive it. And so I will ask for a motion to adjourn the public meeting.